Imagine a city gripped by the icy hand of winter, where the roar of jazz music and the clinking of illicit glasses filled the speakeasies, masking a darker, more brutal reality. It was February 14, 1929, a day meant for declarations of love. But in a grimy garage on Chicago's north side, a different kind of declaration was made, one sealed in blood and bullet holes. This wasn't a lover's quarrel. This was a meticulously planned execution, a chilling chapter in America's gangland history that would forever be known as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. 7 men, caught in the crossfire of a brutal turf war, met their end in a hail of gunfire, their bodies slumped against a wall, a stark monument to the ruthless ambition of the Prohibition-era's most notorious figures. Welcome back to the Calendar of Crime, where we delve into the darkest corners of history to uncover the stories that shock and fascinate. Today, we transport ourselves to the Roaring Twenties, a decade of unprecedented economic boom, cultural revolution, and beneath it all, a simmering cauldron of organized crime fueled by the nationwide ban on alcohol. Prohibition, enacted in 1920, inadvertently created a golden age for gangsters, transforming ordinary men into powerful crime lords who controlled vast networks of bootlegging, gambling, and prostitution. Chicago, a bustling metropolis, became the epicenter of this illicit empire, a battleground where rival gangs fought tooth and nail for dominance. At the heart of this violent struggle were two formidable figures, Al Capone, the undisputed king of the South Side Chicago outfit, and George Bugs Moran, the defiant leader of the North Side Gang. Their rivalry was legendary, a simmering feud marked by assassinations, bombings, and constant territorial disputes. Capone, with his flamboyant style and iron-fisted control, had systematically eliminated or absorbed most of his rivals. Moran, however, remained a thorn in his side, a stubborn obstacle to Capone's complete control over Chicago's lucrative criminal underworld. The North Side Gang, once led by the charismatic Diane O'Banion, had a long-standing animosity with Capone's outfit. O'Banion's assassination in 1924 ignited a bloody gang war that saw several leaders fall, including Jaime Weiss and Vincent Drucci. By 1929, Moran had taken the reins, a man known for his volatile temper and an unwavering refusal to bow down to Capone. This personal vendetta, coupled with the immense profits at stake from bootlegging, set the stage for the horrific events of that Valentine's Day. The target for that fateful morning was the SMC Cartage Company garage at 2122 North Clark Street. This seemingly innocuous building served as a front for Moran's bootlegging operations, a place where his men stored their illicit whiskey and trucks. The plan, meticulously crafted, was to lure Moran and his key lieutenants to the garage under the pretense of a lucrative deal, a truckload of hijacked old log cabin whiskey, offered at a bargain price. It was an offer too good for Moran to refuse, or so the perpetrators hoped. On the morning of February 14th, 7 men associated with Moran's gang gathered at the garage, eagerly awaiting the promised delivery. Among them were Peter and Frank Gusenberg, notorious enforcers for the North Side Gang; Albert Kachelek, Moran's second-in-command; Adam Hayer, the gang's bookkeeper; and Albert Weinshank, who managed Moran's cleaning and dyeing businesses. Also present were Reinhard H. Schwimmer, a gambler who frequented gang circles, and John May, an innocent mechanic who was simply working on a truck, accompanied by his dog Highball. Moran himself was running late, a twist of fate that would ultimately save his life. As the 7 men waited, a Cadillac touring car, designed to resemble a police vehicle, pulled up to the garage. 4 to 6 men emerged, 2 of them dressed in authentic-looking police uniforms, complete with badges and caps. The others wore civilian clothes, but carried shotguns. Believing it to be a legitimate police raid, the men in the garage offered no resistance, accustomed to bribing law enforcement to look the other way. The fake officers ordered the 7 men to line up against the north wall of the garage, their hands raised. What followed was not an arrest, but a brutal, systematic execution. The 2 men in police uniforms, along with their civilian-clothed accomplices, opened fire with Thompson submachine guns and shotguns. The cacophony of 70 rounds from the Thompsons and a single shotgun blast ripped through the cold morning air, tearing through flesh and bone. 6 of the men died instantly, their bodies riddled with bullets. Frank Gusenberg, astonishingly, survived the initial onslaught. Despite being shot multiple times, he crawled 20 feet from the wall, desperately clinging to life. When police arrived minutes later, alerted by the frantic barking of John May's dog Highball, they found a scene of unimaginable carnage. Sergeant Clarence Sweeney of the Chicago Police Department knelt beside the dying Gusenberg, pleading for him to identify his attackers. "Who shot you?" Sweeney asked. Gusenberg, with his last breaths, defiantly replied, "No one. No one shot me." He died shortly after, taking the secret of his assailants to his grave. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre sent shockwaves across the nation and around the world. The sheer brutality and audacity of the crime, committed in broad daylight on a holiday of love, horrified the public. Newspapers dedicated unprecedented coverage to the event, and the image of the bullet-riddled garage wall became an enduring symbol of gangland violence. Public outrage intensified calls for stricter law enforcement and an end to the rampant crime that Prohibition had fostered. Al Capone, vacationing in Florida at the time, vehemently denied any involvement, claiming he was too ill to travel. However, the public and law enforcement alike pointed fingers directly at him. The rivalry between Capone and Moran was well known, and the massacre bore all the hallmarks of Capone's ruthless efficiency. Despite extensive investigations by the Chicago police, the Illinois Attorney General's office, and the coroner's office, no one was ever officially charged with the murders. However, the investigation did lead to significant advancements in forensic science. Dr. Calvin Goddard, a pioneer in forensic ballistics, was brought in to examine the evidence. He meticulously analyzed the bullets and shell casings found at the scene, comparing them to test fires from suspected weapons. Goddard's work was groundbreaking, allowing him to definitively link the bullets to specific firearms, a crucial step in modern criminal investigations. His findings would later connect the massacre to Fred Burke, a notorious hitman associated with Capone's network, after the weapons were discovered in Burke's possession following an unrelated incident. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre marked a turning point in the public's perception of organized crime. It highlighted the extreme violence and lawlessness that had become commonplace during Prohibition, ultimately contributing to the growing sentiment for its repeal. The event also had a lasting impact on gun control legislation, with the widespread use of machine guns in gangland killings, including the massacre, leading to the passage of the National Firearms Act of 1934. While Al Capone was never convicted for the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, the pressure from law enforcement and public opinion intensified, eventually leading to his conviction for tax evasion in 1931. Bugs. Moran's power waned significantly after the massacre, and he eventually died in prison for bank robbery. The legacy of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre remains a grim reminder of a violent era, a testament to the deadly consequences of unchecked power and criminal enterprise. Thanks for watching. Please comment, share, like, and subscribe for future episodes from the Calendar of Crime.